Welcome to the Ian Cameron Sports Report for Monday, November the 9th. We're ready to go with another edition of the show. This week, we're going to look at NFL recap from the past weekend, college football from the past weekend, and look ahead to, well, it's a football game. It's an NFL game. There's a betting line. I can't say it's going to be a classic, but we do have Patriots-Jets tonight. We'll break that game down for you right here on this edition of the Ian Cameron Sports Report. Let's look back at the NFL weekend that was yesterday. The Sunday games, lots of exciting finishes in terms of games that from a point spread or a total perspective came right down to the wire yesterday with a bunch of games. We saw Kansas City and Carolina, 33-31, Kansas City escaping with the win. Carolina with the cover, though, wire to wire. Right in that game, had a chance to win. That now makes Teddy Bridgewater, I believe, 21-5 as a ATS as an underdog in his career, and as a road underdog, his numbers have been absolutely outstanding as well. Catching points with this guy has been outstanding bet in the past. Christian McCaffrey returns, but gets injured as well, and is now probably out again indefinitely. So really tough news for Carolina. And again, the Panthers, a winnable football game, just like the New Orleans game a few weeks ago for them, unable to make those few plays late in the game in order to get the win. And Kansas City hangs on for the 33-31 win. Game flies over the total. Minnesota 34-20 on Detroit. Detroit has gone right back in the tank again. They had a little bit of promise. They were showing for a few games in a row there. Now back-to-back ugly losses to the Colts and the Vikings. You know things are bad when you have 10 men on the field and you allow a Dalvin Cook touchdown run with 10 men on the football field on defense. So that's just a sign of a team that's maybe not focused at all right now. And not good for the Detroit Lions moving forward. They lose by 14 to Minnesota. Denver, Atlanta, again, making a habit of blowing leads in the second half. They had to hang on for dear life after leading 20-3 at halftime, but they hang on for a 34-27 win against a very depleted Denver defense, which just got absolutely gashed yesterday in that game. If Denver's if Denver on that side of the ball does not get healthier going into this week, this team is going to have significant problems in terms of being able to get stops against the Raiders, who are going to be their next opponent. Tennessee bounces back off 2 straight losses, 24-17 win over Chicago. They dominated the game. That final score is extremely flattering to the Chicago Bears. They were outplayed in that game. So was Washington, and yet the Giants had trouble putting them away. 23-20, the Giants get the win there. Obviously, Kyle Allen hurt and likely gone for a long period of time. Alex Smith, it's wonderful to see him back on the field, but when you look at him from a strictly how's he playing standpoint, you know there's rust there, and you know he's not really in rhythm yet, but certainly a tough situation for him to be thrust into. The Las Vegas Raiders hang on to give the LA Chargers another brutal close loss, 31-26. The Buffalo Bills, how about the impressive first half they had, up 24-10 at halftime, and they end up rolling to a 44-34 win. Seattle, if you can tell me what is the one thing that is going to keep from Seattle from making the Super Bowl and making it out of the NFC, it is without a doubt their defense, which continues to struggle. The Bills realized the secondary for the Seahawks was vulnerable. You could do damage against them. And boy, that's exactly what Josh Allen and the Bills did. They zeroed in on attacking that Seahawks secondary, and they torched the Seattle pass defense throughout that game, getting the victory. Game flies over the total. Baltimore with a 24-10 win against Indianapolis yesterday. Dominance in the second half, shutting out the Colts in the second half, 17-0. And again, I said this, previewing this game on multiple shows. I have no interest in Phillip Rivers against an above-average defense. I don't trust him to make plays at this stage of his career, to make good decisions with the football at this stage of his career against good defenses, and we saw him. And the Colts have issues on offense. Not only Rivers against good defenses, but their offensive lines kind of regressed a little this year, and the playmakers and the wide receiving core and the running backs. I don't see a great deal of big-time game breakers on the offense for the Colts this year, and it is an issue, and it certainly was yesterday. Baltimore took a while for their offense to get going, but they wore down the Colts in the second half. Lamar Jackson started getting things going and through it with his legs as well, running the football, and Baltimore was able to take over in the second half, control the game and win 24-10. How about the Miami-Arizona game? Phenomenal football game. Back and forth it went. Kyler Murray and Tua Tagovailoa, the two of the future faces of this league in terms of quarterback play. And they've put on a show. They were outstanding, both of them, Tua and Kyler. But it's the Dolphins get the victory 34-31. And hard to believe they kicked that field goal, Arizona, and didn't keep going, try to get the touchdown there with the way they were moving the ball most of that game against Miami. And sure enough, the field goal comes up short, and Arizona loses 34-31. New Orleans, 38-3 destruction over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. Just dominance, offense, defense, special teams, every area. The New Orleans Saints were better. And the Saints, for the first time this year, cash an under ticket. That was the first New Orleans game to stay under. Not a coincidence that it was the first game to stay under in a game that was their best defensive performance of the season. Not even close. I mean, the New Orleans defense has been a little bit of a disappointment this season. They looked a lot more like the defense I thought they might have coming into this season. You saw Marshawn Lattimore play his great game. He shut his best game of the season. He shut down Mike Evans. The pass rush was there. They were in on Tom Brady all night long, getting pressure, sacking him, getting in his face, not giving him any time to step up and throw downfield. I mean, it was just a complete defensive performance from them. And on offense, Drew Brees and the Saints marched the ball up and down the field throughout the game against that Bucs defense. So a dominant 38-3 win for New Orleans. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't ask how, they ask how many. They won, not pretty, but effective, 24-19 over the Dallas Cowboys. But Dallas with the wire-to-wire point spread cover in that game. It's your typical Steelers kind of performance, under Mike Tomlin that we've seen for years. They have a big win, arch rival, and now they go on the road, play a weak team, and they do just enough to win and likely fail to cover the number. That has been a habit. That's been an MO of the Steelers team over the years, and we saw that yesterday in the victory against the Dallas Cowboys, 24-19. But the Steelers made the plays when they had to. That's what matters most. In terms of the overall numbers in the NFL yesterday and what we saw, it was another good day for overs, and usually when it's a good day for overs, it's a good day for me. 8-4-1 over the total with the games in Week 9. The over on the season in the NFL is 70-58 to the over. So it's been a good season for betting on high-scoring games. We've seen more overs than unders yesterday. It was a really good NFL day for me, as you might have seen on Twitter at Bobano. 12-4 yesterday in the NFL for me. Now 27-10 in the last 3 weeks in the NFL for me. It's been a great run. We're profitable for the entire NFL season. I went back and crunched the numbers. I've got all my bets recorded on a daily basis, so I know exactly where I stand. And so far this season in the NFL, entering Week 10, I'm going into next week at 76-60. So it's been a really, really solid NFL season. And yesterday was probably the best week of the season for me in the NFL. But that always means, hey, what are you going to do for an encore? And I'm already fast at work trying to duplicate the results we had yesterday, which were absolutely outstanding. So a great NFL Sunday for me. Let's recap college football. Not so college football Saturday for me. Definitely was stronger in the NFL this week than college. So let's look back at some of the key games just in rapid fire form in college football from this past weekend. West Virginia falling just short against Texas Longhorns, trying to turn their season around, still in the mix in the Big 12 title race. 17-13 with the back-to-back wins they've now gotten after losing to Oklahoma. They beat Oklahoma State and West Virginia in consecutive games. One of the better defensive performances from the Texas Longhorns this year for a team that hasn't necessarily been great defensively, but they were much better in the victory against the West Virginia Mountaineers on Saturday. West Virginia does get the money in that game. Michigan Wolverines fall 38-21 to Indiana. How about the Indiana Hoosiers? 3-0 to start the season. This is the best record to start a season for Indiana football, and I can't even remember how long. But they're playing well. They've got a defense this year. That was probably the best game I've seen out of Michael Penix Jr., who I thought was a little bit underwhelming in the first two games for the Hoosiers. A really good win for them. North Carolina trampling Duke in the in-state rivalry game, 56-24. Sam Howell and that Tar Heels offense just run amok against the Duke defense in that game. SMU, after a slow start, they just dominate Temple in the second half. and win 47-23. Northwestern, here's another team to keep your eye on. 3-0 start for Pat Fitzgerald and the Wildcats, 21-13 win against Nebraska. I like this team, balanced. They have a good defense. Peyton Ramsey, the Indiana transfer, has been solid at quarterback, leading the offense, and they can run the ball. There's a lot to like about Northwestern right now. Not pretty for Memphis against South Florida, but they rally to beat the South Florida Bulls 34-33. Virginia Tech losing outright as 17-point favorites against Liberty 38-35. Malik Willis and the Liberty Flames offense was too much for Virginia Tech to handle. A wild game with a wild finish, and Liberty ends up getting the victory 38-35 in that one. Florida showing you how potent this offense and how special it is with Kyle Trask at quarterback. Kyle Trask turned Georgia's defense into Kyle's trash on Saturday. Trash is exactly the way the Georgia defense played in that game. They were shredded. They were lit up. If you're Kirby Smart, you're concerned right now, because this is now two really good offenses you've been tested against, Alabama and Florida. And Alabama and Florida did anything they wanted offensively against you. Defensive issues against better offenses starting to show for the Georgia Bulldogs. They've shown that defensively, yeah, against average or bad offenses, they look dominant. But against the best offenses in college football, they've had their problems getting stops. And we saw it again for Georgia in the 44-28 loss to Florida on Saturday. How about the Cincinnati Bearcats? More impressive football from them on both sides. 38-10 win over Houston. Never in doubt. They cover with ease as well. And look, Desmond Ridder in the offense is the question mark we had all season with Cincinnati. And if they're going to start moving the ball with success and putting up 38 points like they did Saturday against Houston, to go with that defense, which by far is the best defense in the AAC, and it's probably one of the top 10 defenses in the country, I would say, maybe even top 5. This Cincinnati defense can flat out get after it. They can lock you up in the secondary. They've got an elite pass defense. I think their defensive line can neutralize the run as well. They can come after you, and they get good pressure on the opposing quarterback. So Cincinnati, to me, is looking extremely good right now. And if they get a Power 5 team in a bowl game, they have a chance to beat that Power 5 team if that Power 5 team's not ready to go, because Cincinnati can beat anybody the way they're playing right now, outside of maybe Alabama, outside of maybe Clemson. You go on down the list, but Cincinnati is absolutely one of the best teams in the country right now, and they keep proving it on a weekly basis. Maryland, 35-19 against Penn State. This was the single best bet I made this weekend in terms of not only winning the bet, but nailing it like fully on both sides. I said Maryland, I believe in the offense, even though it came against Minnesota 2 weeks ago and Minnesota's defense hadn't been great. I believe that Taulia Tagovailoa, younger brother of Tua, had turned a corner. And he played excellent against Penn State on the road against what was supposed to be a pretty decent defense. And Taulia Tagovailoa was very strong in that game against Penn State on Saturday, throwing the ball, making plays. They ran the football successfully. So I got that part of it right. And I also got the bet against Penn State part of it right, where they were just flat as a pancake. And I figured that I was worried that could be the case. 0-2. Can't win the Big Ten title. You can't be in the playoff anymore after losing to Indiana and Ohio State. They could be flat. They could be uninspired. And they came out that way. They fell behind 28-7 at halftime. Maryland took their foot off the gas pedal at that point, but that was a no-show almost for Penn State. 35-19. And they're officially on my either bet against Penn State or pass moving forward with this Nittany Lions team. They are not a team that I'll be looking to back. They 0-3 now. Season is quickly going nowhere, and they're getting worse every week. I mean, they got beaten up on both sides of the football by Maryland in that game. Oklahoma State, not pretty, but they escaped with a 20-18 win against K-State. Wildcats again, which they often do as underdogs. They hang in there. They give themselves a chance to win, but sometimes the offense and the quarterback play is just not good enough to put them over the top, and that's kind of what happened against Oklahoma State over the weekend. UCLA, Colorado, a wild one. Game flies over the total. Colorado wins 48-42. One of my most disappointing handicapping calls of the weekend was South Carolina. I thought they'd give Texas A&M a game, and it was pathetic from South Carolina. What did they do during the bye week? I have no idea. Certainly wasn't preparing themselves in any sort of proper fashion to play this football game because they were just dominated on both sides of the ball. 48-3 win for Texas A&M. Notre Dame Clemson will wrap up quickly before we get to that. Arkansas 24-13 win as things continue to fall apart for Tennessee. Oregon State, I thought they'd be better than they were against Washington State, but Washington State, shame on me. I undersold Nick Rolovich and his coaching ability. I mean, he did a great job at Hawaii, and his first game, even with a rebuilt defense, a new starting quarterback, Jaden DeLaura, who did run the run and shoot offense that Rolovich uses. So there was familiarity there, and boy, he looked good throwing that football for Washington State. They beat Oregon State 38-28, and we'll wrap it up, the college football recap up with the game of the day. It not only was the game of the day on paper, Clemson, Notre Dame, it was the game of the day in terms of the game on the field. It was an excellent football game. It was back and forth. It went to overtime, and Notre Dame escapes 47-40. Just an outstanding game back and forth. Give Ian Book credit. You know, he made plays, and he drove the football down the field repeatedly through the air. They ran the football effectively with Kyron Williams. It was a balanced attack, and Clemson's defense struggled in that game against it. You know, and Ian Book, if not for fumbling down by the goal line, you know, in the second half, Notre Dame could have won that game even more comfortably. So it was a really good performance for Notre Dame's offense against Clemson's defense. Clemson's offense was fine. You can't pin that loss on DJ Uiagalelei in that game. He was absolutely outstanding for the Clemson Tigers. It didn't look like playing a top 5 team on the road shook him whatsoever. He made the plays he had to. He made a couple of big pass plays down the field. But when your defense isn't helping you out on the other side, you know, that's going to be an issue. And that's what we saw Saturday night. But give credit to Notre Dame. There was questions about whether they could step up, beat one of the true elites in college football, which is something they've had trouble doing for 2 decades now, and they finally got the job done. Really, this was the best win I think Notre Dame's had under Brian Kelly, no question, in terms of the pedigree of the opponent that they just beat. So credit to Notre Dame, 47-40 win against Clemson on Saturday night. All right, so that's your NFL recap. That's your college football recap. Let's preview Monday Night Football, Patriots and Jets. I can't guarantee this is going to be a good game, and I can't guarantee I'm going to give you a whole lot in terms of usable betting info for this game because I have not. I will say this right now: I'm not involved in this game from a side perspective, from a totals perspective, and I don't even think I'm looking at any props. There are a couple players that would kind of interest me in terms of props tonight offensively, and it's just a couple because I don't necessarily think this is going to be a high-scoring game. So I'll throw those out at you. But right now, what we do know is the Patriots, Jets, 10-point favorite. New England on the road, total 42-42.5. The over's actually taken some money here on game day. I don't know if I can join in on the people betting this thing over. I think it's going to be lower scoring. The Jets defense is horrendous, but this New England offense has offensive line issues. They're a run-heavy offense. They don't have much of a passing game with Cam Newton. The receiving core is decimated. You know, you're looking at the likes of Damiere Byrd and Jacoby Myers being your top receivers now for this New England team. There's difficulty with these receivers being able to gain separation, one-on-one coverage down the field. That's been a problem. It's too easy for opposing defenses to just stack the box against this New England offense, and they're having success doing it here. Patriots have battled, and they've been in a lot of games, but they're now in a price range. And I know the Jets are woeful, and I will not have a penny of my own hard-earned money, and I work my tail off, my bag off for the money that I get from a betting standpoint, that I'm not putting a dime of it on Joe Flacco leading this Jets offense. No way. Joe Flacco's been hideous. Let's not forget the last time he started a game for the Jets was the Miami game a few weeks ago. They got shut out. That's pretty hard to get shut out. Now, Miami's defense has played better lately, but to get shut out, not a single point. He's a statue in the pocket. That's a problem. He doesn't have any mobility. It's a very, very shaky offensive line for the Jets in front of him. I can't envision Joe Flacco lighting up the scoreboard here tonight in this game. But Cam Newton on the other side, I'm not sure I fully trust him to light up the scoreboard. I think the Jets defense is certainly one that you're capable of moving the football against. You should be able to. They've had some issues against the run. They've not been good at all in their secondary. If I'm the Patriots, I would at least try to throw the football a little bit more tonight, because if Cam Newton can't make completions tonight against this Jets secondary, I don't know when he's going to be able to do anything in terms of the passing game down the field for the New England Patriots. So that's the issues here. It's just and the numbers in that spot where I can't take the Jets, but I can't 10 points on the road with New England right now, with the way things have trended downward for them for the better part of the last month. I can't do that either. So this was the easiest pass on the board for me. I have never felt more happy or more content or more at peace with my decision to say, you know what, it's Monday Night Football. I'm not betting the game, though. I've never felt better about saying that for a Monday Night Football game than saying it for this game. However, I will give you a couple prop concepts that I think make some sense. One receiver on each team that I'm kind of Cam Newton rushing attempts and rushing yards. Certainly that's something that I'm a little bit interested in if I were to bet props, but I'm going to probably stay out of the props as well tonight. But one receiver on each team, Jakobi Meyers for the New England Patriots. We are starting to see Cam Newton target him a little bit more in the passing game, especially the last game against the Bills. I could see that happening again here. It looks like him and Myers have got at least some semblance of chemistry and cohesion, quarterback to receiver for the Patriots. So maybe you'd sprinkle a couple of bucks on Jakobi Meyers receptions over, Jakobi Meyers receiving yards over, and maybe Meyers a touchdown prop as well. I think Jakobi Meyers is one of those guys that looks like just in the last game or two, Cam Newton is showing signs of trying to find him down the field. For the New York Jets, I know Jamison Crowder gets a lot of attention. We know he's been banged up at times this season as well for the New England Patriots. But the guy I would be looking at is probably Brashad Perriman here for the New York Jets. I think he's someone that, from a receiving standpoint, might be someone that Joe Flacco ends up zoning toward more often than not. Let's not forget Jamison Crowder's been banged up for most of the week going into this game. He was questionable for the with the groin injury that he's been battling. They say he's probably going to be available for this game, last check, but doesn't necessarily mean that when you're coming back from that kind of injury, you're suddenly going to be looked at as the go-to guy. I think Brashad Perriman, much like I said with Jakobi Meyers a minute ago, maybe he is someone you look at potentially over receiving yards, receptions, and maybe some a chance to score a touchdown tonight. Not that the Jets score a lot of touchdowns, that's the problem, but they don't score a lot of touchdowns. But maybe if they're going to find the end zone tonight, then Brashad Perriman might be part of that. So unfortunately, not a whole lot for me on Monday Night Football. It's going to be a fascinating game to watch because it could be a shit show. And it could actually be very competitive, this game. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out here with the Patriots and the Jets here on Monday Night Football. All right, that'll wrap up this edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report for Monday, November 9th. Tomorrow on the Tuesday show, it's all about MACtion. It'll be MAC college football talk. We'll break down some Tuesday and Wednesday MAC college football games. The MAC will take center stage. We'll get you ready. I'll give you some leans, some opinions on the MAC schedule of games taking place Tuesday and Wednesday night. So join me tomorrow on the Ian Cameron Sports Report for that. Make sure you join us here daily on pubsportsradio.com and the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel for tons of great content daily, tons of great personalities as well. So make sure you're always checking us out here at Pub Sports Radio. Thanks for watching. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the Patriots-Jets game. At least try to enjoy it. And if you're betting it, and if you've got the guts to bet it, God love you if you're betting this game. But if you are, I wish you good luck and all the best with your wagers. I'll be back with you tomorrow on Tuesday for another edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report.